Hi everyone, welcome to episode 2 of One Step at a Time with Charlie Chen. And today's topic is going to be on hope and competition. Um, you see, while a lot of times in today's world, it's almost like everything is pushed towards politics, and in a way, it is because if you are able to make a point and it gains traction, then it becomes a threat, right? So, so I guess what I'm trying to get at is not about getting into the politics of things, even though down the line, anything that we do is pretty much politics. Um, but I think it's important to understand the mechanisms behind everything. So, the thing with competition, at least human competition, I guess the thing that I want to talk about would be, well, I guess the three main strategies of winning, right? So in today's competition, you can either be fast, and fast means that you show up before everybody else, and then you show up before everybody else, but then you get out before the other competitions come in, right? First move advantage. Now, the benefit of moving fast is that whenever you're fast and you're at a resource that nobody else is paying attention to, you are actually given the you are given the grace to be able to make mistakes because nobody knows the rules and nobody's putting the pressure on you other than other people who are trying to go fast. So you can actually be a noob as you go into a new field before everybody else have it figured out. And if you learn fast enough and you move fast enough, you can secure the bulk of the benefit before, like for instance, the field of IT or anything technology related. In the beginning, nobody really knows what they're doing as they're trying to figure things out. And as more things become more solidified, as people's understanding increase in technology, well, I mean, now people don't want you to figure things out on the job. They want you to figure it out on your own dime and own time before they let you on, right? So there's a huge advantage to moving fast. Now, the second form of winners in competition are people who are powerful. Think about people who has money, people who has resources, and pretty much people with means, right? And the benefit of having means is that no matter the situation, if it is something that's good or something that's important, you just go for it because you can just either bully people out of the way or you can just straight up buy the resource or position that you need, right? Now, the benefit of that is that instead of trying to move fast and trying to figure things out, you can actually wait for other people to figure things out before you adopt such strategy. So, for instance, in the beginning, Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin doesn't have a lot of value, and people who are fast are able to secure it at a lower price. But later on, people with power can buy it at a much higher price because, they have money. And of course, once the value of Bitcoin is recognized, its price kept on going up, right? So nowadays, to own a whole Bitcoin is out of most people's reach, right? So that's when it comes to power. Or let's say that you need to build somewhere, or if you need to just be at the perfect geological location. Let's say the next boom of technology is happening somewhere in some city. Well, obviously, if you're not the first mover there, the price of the realty market goes up, right? Well, but if you have to be there, you have to be there. So it's not a problem if you're powerful. Now, the third one, sometimes it's called cruelty, and sometimes, But at the end of the day, I don't think it's cruelty. It's more like the ability to bend rules. And the ability to bend rules is more like it's manipulative, but not quite. So what I'm trying, and it's similar to quick, but not easy, but not isn't. I guess what I'm trying to say is, sometimes when people are focused on being fast and people who are being focused on being strong, they overlook things, such as rules of the game, right? Like you think about people who sit at city halls all the time and voting on things and trying to fundamentally change how the rule book plays. Well, if you have the ability to change the rule of things, well, I mean, other people can be chasing something that's important now, but if you're able to change the rules while picking up things that are not as valuable, but nobody's looking at it, and then once the rule change is in place, and bam, everything that you've been collecting and the rule changes goes into effect, you're holding all the good cards now, right? And in video games, it would be something like, I don't know, a good example would be Trick Room in Pokemon. In Pokemon, most of the times, the fastest one go first, right? Well, when Trick Room is in effect, the slower one goes first. So if you build your team on being the slowest, well, with Trick Room in effect, everyone is fast now. But in real life, I guess, what would be a good example of someone? Oh, right. How about the rise, or like, it's whenever we have big technological changes, right? Like, for instance, cars, guns, right? So huge disruptors that changes the rule of the game. And sometimes, yeah, or allegedly, right, politicians who buy positions in stocks and they're able to change the market conditions so they benefit, or they gain the information from their buddies and they're able to do that. So something like that, right? Yeah, the ability to change the rules. Now, the thing with, well, that's the thing, right? Manipulators aren't exactly bad people, but here lies in the logical problem with the whole thing. And the logical problem, and I've been thinking about it too, is about it, and it dawned on me as I do a lot of comedy, because I end up waiting in line behind a lot of people, and sometimes comics like to cut into the lines. And it's something like this, right? The problem with cheaters is that, so let's say things are going under rule A, right? A cheater comes in and cheats. That essentially turns the system on its head, because cheating is beneficial while everybody else goes by the original rule, right? Cutting is only beneficial if everybody else follows, right? If nobody called them out on it, or if no one else cut in front of them, or like things like that, right? Well, so it's beneficial, and we as humans, monkey see, monkey do, right? So we copy the cheaters. Some of us who either wants to win really bad, or who doesn't have ethics, or people who are, well, that's the thing, right? Like, if they follow suit and they come out ahead, they will celebrate themselves as innovators or whatever, right? So the problem with cheaters is that then other people are going to follow suit. And then as other people follow suit, more people follow suit because they want to remain competitive, right? So as more people try to remain competitive, cheating slowly becomes the norm. But that's the thing. You might be able to get a lot of benefit in the beginning, but as more people cheat, the benefit becomes diminishing, because it just becomes the normal way of doing things, right? So what ends up happening? The original competitive advantage, or benefit that you would get is gone as everybody else decides to cheat as well, right? But nobody wants to not cheat because that's how they get to stay in the game in the first place, right? So you think about it. So normal rule, cheat. Everybody drop down to the new rule with cheating in play, just to be on the level field, and then you go another level down through new breakthroughs in technology or innovation or cheating. Then everybody else does it. So what ends up happening is that now you have all these different layers, right? You have all these different layers of things that we do just because yeah, and there's no benefit to it. Like before, it's just well, if you want to stay competitive, you have to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, like going to school, get a certificate, years in what's it called? Years in experience in certain field, community service in certain instances, or character like doing things that can show that you have good character. And sometimes, like for instance, what I'm doing right now, actually, because everybody has to have a YouTube channel or something like that, even though it may or may not be beneficial to the product or service that they offer, right? Now, me wanting to be a public figure of some sort, well, I guess this is part for the course, right? So here I am. But, without the way my life play out the way it is, I would have. The original dream is to be a musician, but I was playing it safe, and well, no, it's not even that I was playing it safe, it's that I was put in a position that I have to play it safe. So now, at the age of 34, I guess I have to figure things out. But that being said, I'm not dead yet, and there's still time, so it's not too late to try to be who I am, right? Now, so yeah, we end up doing things without the benefit of before, but if we don't do it, we become it's almost like negative value, right? It's almost like trash, but you have to do it because if you don't do it, you're not competitive. Like everybody has to drive. Well, if you don't work remote, everybody has to drive to work now. Everybody has to know computer to a certain degree and things like that. Now, not everybody, I'm sure people have, but majority of people, right? And even for this video, you have to be on some device to see it. So yeah, but so that's the thing, right? The three different ways of competition and why I have feel a certain way towards cheaters. Now, of course, that's how you compete, right? Now, how do you know that stuff that you compete for actually has value, right? And this is actually one of my favorite things that I learned from finance class, which was, I think, the most important concept when it comes down to finance is how do you evaluate if something is valuable, right? And the thing with evaluating if something is valuable, I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about maybe a hobby that you invest in if you're looking to. So anything that's beneficial that you're trying to invest in. So maybe hobby was a bad example. Something that you're trying to turn a profit, like a YouTube channel, a career, maybe even a loved one or something like that, right? So, or a business partner or new friendship or partnership, right? So if I don't remember wrong, the three most important most important things when it comes down to investments or anything that you put your time and or money in is, first of all, how long it takes, right? So let's say someone say, hey, I'm going to give you $5 billion, and you'll be like, great. But then they're like, oh, but it's going to take 5,000 years for you to get it. Well, then I guess it's no good in this round of life, right? Now, another one would be So other than how long it takes to realize the money, you also have risk, right? Like for instance, lottery ticket is nice, but the chance of winning is very low. Or let's say, buying high risk assets, things like that, right? So things that it's like, let's say, a risk in terms of people would be like, let's say your cousin who needs money to go to school, you lend them your money, but you know that they're druggy or something like that, then they use all their money and they don't. Now, this is an example. My cousin is great; she doesn't do drugs, but 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 that's the example I decided to give. Now, that would be a bad investment, right? Money goes poof and it doesn't go to what it needs to be, and there's no returns, right? And lastly is, I guess sometimes it's called liquidity, but also I guess the easiest way to look at it is how many hoops you have to jump through in order to realize the money, right? So suppose you found something that's both uh, comes back in time and is also relatively low risk, but let's say it's really painful to realize the money. Like for instance, I guess in the West, Beanie Baby were a thing, and I'm sure some people are sitting on Beanie Babies, or maybe even I forgot the name of that toy, but the big bobblehead things that they sell at GameStop, um, those things. But pretty much sure, they might be low risk and maybe they're also like timely, but if nobody buys it or the people who buy it are really hard to find, then, or maybe you have to go through an auction process or anything like that, well, then it's hard to turn it liquid, right? Or to realize the gain. Or let's say you help the friend, but that friend lives half the way across the world, and let's say you need a favor from the friend, how are you going to call on that favor, right? It's very hard to do because it's hard to realize the whatever investment that you put in, right? So let's see, we covered the three types of competition, my thoughts on cheaters, how do you determine things of value, right? But all that at the end of the day is competition. It comes down to things that we fight for, how do we fight for it, and realizing if we're good at a certain way of competing, right? And which comes down now, of course, in the beginning, this video was about competition and hope. Well, so here's the hope part. So I guess a quick check-in in what's going on lately. So I was laid off back in May, and then in June, the whole month of June, I was training to become a real estate agent. And from the beginning of July till now, I've been trying to work as a real estate agent, but since it's commission, I don't make any income, right? But now, of course, I still applied for unemployment because I need income to stay alive. But apparently, me putting in the effort to become a real estate agent actually hurts my ability to get payment from unemployment, which is kind of crazy, but sometimes you can't be mad because you don't know the rules of the game, right? And maybe it favors a certain type of playstyle. And understanding that is certain things. Now, while it did hurt, I guess I don't regret trying my best in the last 2 months because, I mean, if anything, I learned about sales, I learned about how to actually get started as a real estate agent because I did have my license for a while, but I never got into a brokerage that actually took the time to train me properly. So shout out to Realty Texas. So they do a great job there. So yeah. But that's the thing, right? When it comes down to being disappointed and things like that, you still can't give up. That's the thing. It's like things won't get better unless you keep pushing forward. And sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some. And I always feel, I guess I always feel a certain way whenever some relationships are built on, like uh, pretty much with benefit in mind, right? Well, that's the thing. People have good time and people have bad times. And well, if someone has a bad time, well, it doesn't mean they're going to stay bad forever. But so I don't know. This desire to always win on top, sometimes I feel like it's unnatural, right? But anyway, but that's the thing with on hope though, because blind hope is no good because you're hoping something to happen with no proof, with no foundation. But hoping, or as Jim Carrey said, faith, right? What does it mean to have faith? I mean, for one, understand how it works, how the mechanism works. So do your best to understand competition, do your best to understand how to go after things of value, and then pretty much go out there day and day again, even if it doesn't benefit, because it will, as long as you push for it for your benefit, one day it will be beneficial. But sometimes the gains are hard to visualize, I guess. Like you feel it, but the bank account sitting at zero doesn't really tell that story, does it? Right? But I believe it's a matter of time. So you cannot lose faith because, I mean, everyone is only alive for the first time. And besides, AI is new. The tariff thing is new. It doesn't mean that suddenly everyone has lost their value, but it does mean that there's a lot of shuffling going on. And it's more important than ever to understand who you are and how do you want to compete. So, anyway, as always, I'm still doing real estate, and I'm also doing comedy. And for comedy this Friday at Coldtowne Theater, 8 o'clock. Um, and for real estate, you can reach me at 737-215-3535. And I actually have an interview tomorrow at a fintech company. So well, I guess it is luck because hopefully that it's a good personality match for the company, right? Because one of the biggest thing I really liked was that about having a stable job over commission is that I don't have to worry about money as much and I can just focus on doing my best, right? Like helping people catch up on like being proficient with technology and things like that. But maybe that's why salespeople get the big bucks, right? Because at the end of the day, salespeople's goal is to help people. Because nobody likes to be sold, but everyone wants to buy, according to someone. And people's needs don't just go away. So somebody always needs something at some time, right? So being sales is being really good at being at the right place at the right time to offer such solutions. And there's value in that. And I cannot deny it. And so as an introverted tech guy who does comedy and real estate, I gained, at least these last 2 months, I've gained an appreciation for salespeople. and I realized the importance of sales skills. So it's not a waste of time. Sure, it's not easy for to live while looking at my money being drained away, but it's not a waste of time and it's not a bad experience. And I was able to meet friends. So don't give up. Sometimes you just have to keep pushing, and if something doesn't work, sometimes it takes time, sometimes it takes changing of scenery. So, but giving up is not an option because one day we will all pass on, and trying then will be too late. So do what you can, and because there's always tomorrow, right? Anyways, see you. Bye.